In local matters, President Trump is weighing in on West Virginia's Republican Senate primary race. In a tweet, the president cautioned against GOP candidate Don Blankenship and warned voters to, quote, remember Alabama. Mr. Trump is referring to the state's special election last year when GOP candidate Roy Moore lost to Democrat Doug Jones following claims that Moore molested a 14-year-old girl while he was in his 30s. Meanwhile, former coal CEO Blankenship spent a year in jail after an explosion at one of his mines left 29 people dead in 2010. With more on the Senate primary race, we want to bring in Jake Zuckerman in Charleston, West Virginia. He is a political reporter for the Charleston Gazette-Mail and knows everything about this race. Jake, why is President Trump concerned about a potential Blankenship win here?
Right. Well, I think the White House and the Republican Party thinks the Joe Manchin seat is especially vulnerable this year, and they're worried that a candidate with a lot of baggage, just like Roy Moore had, could come in and kind of muddle their chances to take back the seat.
So describe the type of race that Blankenship has been running, because it's been pretty dirty.
Right, yeah, the race has been very negative, and Blankenship has been running this very lo-fi campaign. All his ads feel like they're filmed on a camcorder you might have in your basement. And that compares with, some very high-priced, very Washington, D.C.-based campaigns from Evan Jenkins and Patrick Morrisey. So you're getting this sort of motif of the outsider taking on the establishment, which has been a thing that Don Blankenship has been pumping up throughout the campaign.
What is the general pulse of this race in the state with respect to Don Blankenship?
Right, well, Don Blankenship he's definitely gained a lot of support. I mean, people question what happened to him in the trial, for better, for worse, and that was it ended in a jury convicting him of conspiring to violate mine safety and health laws. But, people believe in this narrative. There's a lot of anti-Obama, i.e. President Obama, sentiment here, and they seem to think that the prosecutors and the judge just had it out for him, and Don was something of a victim of the war on coal.
So let's talk about who else is running for this particular Senate seat. Who is he up against?
Well, he's up against the state attorney general, Patrick Morrisey, who's been serving since 2012, and Congressman Evan Jenkins, who has been serving as a congressman since 2014 and was a longtime state delegate before that. There are also some more outside candidates in the race. There's Tom Willis, who is in the National Guard and a local business owner, Jack Newbrow, a Navy veteran and truck driver, and Bo Copley, who is a former coal miner who came to some level of fame after he made some comments to Hillary Clinton challenging some remarks she made in the 2016 presidential race.
So is there, we always look at these races and sometimes the narrative drowns out actual policy and what they want to do or want to achieve. Has anyone stood out about what they want to do for West Virginia?
No, well, that's been one of the interesting things, is the campaign has really taken on the tone of where have you been in these last 10 years as opposed to what are you going to do in the next 6 years. And I think we've seen, Patrick Morrisey is going after Evan Jenkins all the time for having served as a Democrat up until 2013 when he switched parties. Meanwhile, Evan Jenkins has gone after Patrick Morrisey for his work as a lobbyist before he came to West Virginia. And just recently, Patrick Morrisey started attacking Don Blankenship for his time spent in prison, stemming from the conviction. So it's been more of a where have you been instead of where have you going.
Exactly, or what will you be doing? Now, Blankenship, the CEO of the coal company, says he won't rule out a third-party bid if the Attorney General Morrisey wins this nomination. But isn't there something called a sore loser clause?
Right, yes, there's a sore loser clause, and I spoke with the spokesman from the West Virginia Secretary of State this morning who told me that no, a candidate who loses a primary election cannot go on into the general as an independent and run. But I haven't spoken to Don Blankenship or his election attorneys. I don't know if he has some sort of outside opinion there, but as from the West Virginia Secretary of State this morning, no, as much does not seem to be feasible.
So come November, the candidate who wins tomorrow's race is going to be running against Democratic Senator Joe Manchin. You said that in the state, Joe Manchin seems vulnerable right now. But what would a race between Blankenship, who's served time in prison, and Joe Manchin look like? What would that race be?
Well, for one, I'd like to point out that Joe Manchin actually has a primary of his own against Paula Jean Swearingen. I'd say he's expected to win, but it feels like it should be pointed out. But Don Blankenship and Joe Manchin have a lot of history together. After the explosion at Upper Brig Branch, Joe Manchin convened a special investigatory panel to look into what happened and what triggered the accident. He has said that Don Blankenship has blood on his hands because of what happened. There's a lot of animosity between the two guys. So it will be interesting to see how about a decade of history could play out.
All right, Jake Zuckerman, very interesting, the history of the candidates as opposed to the future of what will be for West Virginia. Thanks so much.
No, thank you.